today I'm going to just pick two questions that are absolutely random. And then I want to talk about other random stuff. To start with, as an explanation to why I haven't made a video for some time, I've been working, basically full time doing some remodeling on my home. And I think what I'm going to do when I'm done with this video right now that I'm making, I'm going to grab the camera and show you around a little bit. If that interests you, let me know in the comments section whether you want that or not. But I'll make a short video to show you what I've been doing in my house and why I keep so busy. No, not why, but why it takes so much time doing what I do. The first question I want to come up with is a person I've never communicated with before, and actually I've never, I couldn't even hope to pronounce his name. But he asked a question as in one of my videos as to could I make some comments on, I think it's pronounced Waiguru, which is the terminology or the name Sikhs give their God. So this is going to be a short answer because I don't have a whole lot of information. I haven't done a whole lot of studying in the Sikhism faith. But I do know at least enough about it that I can at least answer that question. In the most simplistic terms possible, this is true for everyone in the world. I don't care what faith or religion you're from. Don't make the mistake of thinking that you have a personal God and that your God is the God of your religion or your faith, or that there are many gods. Sure, there are many gods, just like there are many people, but there may only be one ruler of your country, one king, one person in charge, so to say. And even that person can be categorized as a person. So when I say there's only one God, that would be like saying there's only one person. No, of course, there's many people. But in reality, there is only one God that has created all of reality. And there are two lower gods. Now there may be thousands, if not other millions of gods, but they all fall below. I could say alongside. I don't care how you want to term it. It's easiest to understand it from a position that Brahma is the God that Jesus prayed to. There is only one Brahma, but this Brahma has many different names. In Sikhism, do they call that God Waiguru? No. From what I understand, in Sikhism, they worship Vishnu, essentially. And Vishnu has a different name, same being, in Christianity known as Christ. Notice I did not say Jesus. Is Jesus Christ? Yes. Is Vishnu Christ? Yes. They're all the same individual. So if you want to know more about the God that you worship in Sikhism as a Sikh, study Christianity, specifically the New Testament, and more specifically the King James Version. Although it's more difficult to understand, it has been perverted and corrupted by modern, and don't get me wrong, the original writings are perverted and corrupted, but at least you get closer to the essential meaning or understanding of what Jesus taught as the avatar of Christ or Vishnu. And when I say or, the reason I say or is because Vishnu appeared on the scene as a physical being, as an avatar, well before Jesus did. A million years ago, I don't know. But in Hinduism, they know this individual as Vishnu. So I hope that clears that up. So what do I think about the God that seeks worship? Yeah. Great idea to worship this God. Because this God will lead you just like a guru will, a true guru, will lead you to be self-sufficiently guided and directed to the God that Jesus prayed to, Brahma. You will get the exact same amount of love, devotion, sacrifice from Jesus as you will from Brahma. They're one and the same. This is why it is said to become one with God. To become one with God in the end, you will have the same capacity to love others as Brahma does, as Jesus, Vishnu, Wahguru. So there you go. The other question comes from a person that I communicate with often, semi-often. And he asked the question, how do you cope with communication with other people shortly after you become enlightened or after you become enlightened? How do you deal with people? So that's an easy question. A newly enlightened individual takes varying amounts of time to become more normal, interact with society as if they were a normal person. For me personally, it probably took 4 or 5 years. Specifically, it was quite difficult the first year or so. I honestly don't know how my wife was able to get through that period. Though we were married for more than 40 years, still it was exceedingly difficult for her. And I have talked with her about it. But because she loves me so much, she was able to, I'd like to say endure, but that's not the correct wording. But how did I deal with other parts of society? Let me liken it to a funny thing. Well, at least it's funny to me. So you could ask, well, let's say a person drowned or almost drowned in the ocean, and at the last moment they were either rescued or a lifeboat showed up and they were able to climb in it or whatever. But they essentially were drowned or was drowning before they were saved. And you could say to this person, well, how did you deal with drowning? How did you deal with because since you're not dead, you're alive and you're communicating with us, How did you deal with that period? And the person, if they were honest, would say, I don't know what the hell you're asking. I didn't deal with anything. My body was in survival mode. I was gasping for air. I essentially did not survive if it weren't for the boat that showed up or the person that drugged me out or whatever. It was a free-for-all. I didn't deal with anything. It just happened. So if I were to liken that episode to enlightenment and say, well, you became enlightened and shortly thereafter, be it 2 weeks, 6 months, a year, or whatever, how did you deal with society? How did you communicate? And I would say it was on autopilot, essentially. I didn't deal with public at all. Does that mean I didn't talk to people? No, absolutely not. But I'm groping for words to define it. How do you deal with people playing a video game and you are playing the video game and there's other people there, but they're not real people? I mean, you're not dealing with other players. You're dealing with just video created AI bots, if you will. How do you deal with them? Well, you just do. And so it's different than that, because as an enlightened person, you know other people are real humans, they're real souls, they have essences, they have the capacity to love and understand and all that kind of stuff, and so you love them. But how do you communicate with them? And I would say it's quite difficult, because when you're enlightened, when you're newly enlightened, let's put it that way, you are no longer existing as a video game player in this illusory reality. You know you're here, but you know you're here in the capacity of a video game, but you're controlling that avatar. But things aren't real, and you know they're not real. Now, you don't want to lose the game and exit the game, meaning death. So you eat and you interact with people, but making no mistake that it's not real. There are other essences that you communicate with, and you know that they are real, but they're under the illusion that they are a human being living on a planet and interacting with the reality that they're in. That's what they think, but you know differently as an enlightened person. So what was it like? Well, this is what it was like for me, and how did my wife deal with that? I don't know, because it must have been difficult for her. I was maybe 60 years old-ish, and I was retired, and I left a lot. I mean, I would get in my car and I would just leave for 2-3 weeks or longer and just wander the country. And I would sometimes pull up somewhere in the middle of nowhere in a forest or desert or whatever, with no communication abilities, no cell phone service or anything else, and I would just spend 7, 8, 9, 10 hours. I don't want to call it meditation, but it was kind of like that, and just observing nature, just absolutely fascinated by the detail of this illusory reality. Absolutely fascinated. Because you can interact with the illusion from a fascination point. But if you're communicating with other human beings, that becomes difficult because you have to talk. And when you talk, you are different. I don't know. I just I keep talking, but I don't feel like I'm communicating very well what it's like. I remember going through Portland, Oregon, probably the biggest used bookstore in the world, and going through the spiritual books section and just kind of wandering, just aimlessly wandering and grabbing a book and sitting down and reading. And when I say used bookstore, you can buy books. That's the whole point of the bookstore. It's like 4 stories tall building in the middle of downtown Portland, West Side. If you ever have an opportunity to go to Portland, you should go to Powell's Books. Anyways, and I never talked with anyone there. I was just like floating around. It was bizarre. It was bizarre. I don't know what else to say about that. So another thing I wanted to talk about is there's a concept that spiritual people talk about, and that is that time does not exist in reality, and that it's sort of like a book, in that if you were able to experience reality from a perspective where time doesn't exist, you would be able to move forward 1,000 years or 1 week or whatever. And this is how some, if not all, people are known as visionaries or known as prophets, or they prophesy. Or another term that I really don't like would be to be a fortune teller. But it's because you've already seen the future. You've already kind of experienced it, but not really. So you can go backwards and forwards and anywhere, because you're using the power of God to do this sort of thing. And when I say you can do this, I don't honestly know if you can do it. I do know for 100% sure that it happens. Now, does it happen because God, Brahma, or Vishnu, or Christ, or some assistance helps in the process? I think that's probably the case, because I don't really think you can do it on your own by just contemplating and thinking you're going to go into the future and stuff. Excuse me. I think you have to have assistance to do that. But who knows? Have I done it? Absolutely, I have. Many times. In fact, for the first 10 years of doing that in my life, or 10 years, shall I say 15 years of that happening in my life, I honestly didn't know how or why it was happening. All I knew is it was happening, and there was no way to avoid it. And it was to the point where my family and people that know me did not second guess me. And when I said something was going to happen, after several years of this, they did not question whether or not it was going to happen, because I was right 100% of the time. But what I wanted to add to that people talk about that absolutely is not true, okay, is that even though you move forward and backward in time, think of it as a book, for instance. Think of it as a book, and you can thumb through the book to the end and in this and that. But even though you thumb through the book, even if you've read the entire book, as you thumb through it, you're not really there. You're just reading a story. You're getting some of the emotion, you're getting some of the experience, but it's extremely minimal compared to the real thing. For instance, if you go out and work really hard and you are doing carpentry, building a house, and you're sweating and using nail guns, and you hit your thumb with a hammer, and who knows? It's all day long. The real experience of that is not going to be the same thing as going through time, going through the book and stuff. So when you go forward, let's say a week, and you see something that's going to happen, it's not the same experience as actually living through it when it does in fact take place and happen. And for that reason, we live in mortality, and we actually have to go through this time period, through this birth and rebirth. And don't misunderstand the concept that something is not right or something is imperfect. In your life and in what you do, everything is perfect. Now understand something. Just because it's perfect doesn't mean that you're going to like it or that you want it to happen. But it is perfect. Everything is perfect. There is nothing that is imperfect. Even the concept of sin and evil and satanic things, 100% of everything is perfect. Now, does that lose the meaning of what perfection means in your mind? No. The word perfection in your mind doesn't change just because you realize everything in reality is perfect. What changes is your concept of thinking, not the meaning of the word perfection, but your concept changes to the meaning of your life and what you're going through. And so sometimes you get pissed off and you go, I hate this life. I hate what I'm going through. And some people, I hate you, God, and stuff like that because of the difficulties that occur in their life or the good things in life. Everything is perfect. Walking down the street and a snake bites you and you almost die. 100% perfect. There are no mistakes. Mind you, the creator God Brahma is not a novice, isn't going through learning school by creating this reality. This particular God is perfect, does not make mistakes. Everything you feel and everything, all your trials and your difficulties and your frustration or this or that, no matter what it is, it's 100% perfect. When you think in your mind, oh, that's not perfect, that's really bad, that's screwed up, it's your mind that is having the difficulty comprehending the concept of perfection. Because, see, you probably heard the terminology of the backside of a tapestry. The front is absolutely beautiful and so perfect, and you look at it and you go, wow, that's a masterpiece tapestry. But if you looked at the backside of the tapestry, it's all helter-skelter, it's all the threads are all over the place, and you can't even tell what it is. It excuse me, looks horrible or ugly or whatever. And so if you take that backside away because you think it's imperfect, the front side becomes ugly. So when you're thinking that your life is a living hell or something isn't going right, look at it differently and go, it's perfect. Now, that doesn't mean you have to like it. You can go, I freaking hate what's happening in my life. That's okay. That's okay. That's perfect too. But try to understand what is going on. And in many cases, you're not going to understand. Unless God touches your heart and soul and makes you enlightened or this or that, you're not going to know in this life. Because a lot of these things that you think are imperfect are preparatory to a life 5 reincarnations from now. And so to think that you can comprehend what's going on is ludicrous. You can't, not without some supernatural input to you from God. There's no way for you to know these things. And this is the whole point and purpose of faith. In your heart and soul, you have to. And I'm being specific here. I'm telling you, you have to employ faith if you ever expect to end this cycle of samsara. You absolutely 100% have to employ faith. But what is faith? Faith is trust. Trust in God. Trusting that this reality is perfect. Trusting it to the point where you go, I love God. I have total faith and trust that what is happening is for my best interest. And I don't like it, and I don't have to like it. There's nothing wrong with not liking it, as long as you have trust in God, faith in God, that what is happening is not a mistake. But you have to go through the life experience. You can't short circuit the experience by moving forward and backward in time as a time traveler, if you will. You could do that, but you still have to live the life experience for your own well-being. Because there's a difference when you're out of your time. There's a difference than when you are in your time. Even though you can see it and to a smaller degree experience it, it's not the full measure of what you have to experience, because everything is perfect. Okay, so is that everything I wanted to talk about today? I think that it is. I know that this is kind of short, but as I said, I'll grab my camera and show you around what I do and why it takes so much time. But I do want to close, as always, by telling you sincerely, I love you. And telling you sincerely, I know for 100% assurity, God loves you. You don't have to love God in return if you don't feel like it. There's nothing wrong with that. But have faith that at some point you will love God. At some point you will get over the difficulties that are causing you not to love God. And that's perfect too. And by the way, some people will never love God, and that's okay too. Shiva will never love God. Satan will never love God, or at least that's what I believe. but I love you. And I want to be your friend for all eternity. I'm going to say one last thing, because when I said friend, it just keyed in this thing. I've talked about this before. Worldwide. I mean, like in all civilized countries of the world right now, there is an extreme difficulty with men and women, male and female, having a bond of love, of marriage, of an extreme difficulty. But I will tell you why, and I've told you why before. It's because friendship has been replaced with sexual desire, for financial desires, for whatever the case may be. The relationship, if it is not based upon friendship. And what do I mean by friendship? If you call me a friend, that's friendship. You have to have the same friendship with the opposite sex. Irrespective of sex, irrespective of that, you have to be a friend. If you can't be a friend with that person, it's not going to work out. It's impossible for it to work out. You have to find some sort of common ground where you can be friends. It could be hiking in the woods. It could be reading books. It could be spirituality. It doesn't have to be everything. It just has to be enough things where you find that person of the opposite sex as a friend. And in many cases, it might start off as a sexual desire, but if it doesn't materialize or turn into a friendship where you laugh and you play and you can't wait to get together with your friend and go hiking or motorcycle riding or doing woodwork or carpentry or whatever the case may be. If you can't find some common ground where you look at that other person as a friend and you want to get done working for the day because you want to get together with that friend and do things that friends do. If you can't do that, the relationship will not last. I mean, do they last in other religions where they force the women to do this or that or whatever? Yes, they last, but they never started off on the right foot. They last only because there's some sort of dedication or this or that or whatever. I'm here to tell you that's all bullshit and it's fake. And if you think you're going to end the wheel of samsara by being with somebody else because, well, it's my religion and I have to produce children or this or that, it isn't going to last. I mean, like, it may last because it has to, but it isn't real. If you're not a friend with that person, you're going to have to go through the wheel of samsara time and time and time again because it isn't the right way. It isn't the real thing. And if you don't look at it as a friend, then what are you looking at it at? Of course, in almost all situations, it's only about sex. And if that's the case, it cannot last. It's impossible to last. And why do I say that? Because all humans are so diverse from each other. I've said this before, it's like there was a saying when I was young, I don't know if it's still a saying, but they go, well, every snowflake is different. If you analyze it down to the molecular structure or the atomic structure, every snowflake is different, they say. Well, think about how simple a snowflake is. I mean, it's H2O in a frozen matrix to create a snowflake. And think about how simple a freaking snowflake is as compared to a human being with trillions upon trillions of cells and different chemicals and makeup and everything else. Combine that with a spiritual essence and a soul. Think of the complexity and how diversely different each human is from each other. And so to think that for some reason you're not going to have difficulties in a relationship or a marriage is absolutely ludicrous. Of course you're going to have difficulties. Each person wants something different than the other person. If you find 20% of things that you like to do with each other that you consider to be a friend, then the other 80% is fine. If it's oppositional or different or whatever, you'll get along just fine. I don't sew, and my wife sews all kinds of stuff, from leather goods to fabric to, I mean, that's her hobby. She's been doing it since she was a little girl. But that's her hobby. Do I do it? No. Do I get interested in her sewing? Yeah, I try to, because I'm a friend, I try to understand what the sewing machines do and this and that and everything else because I want to be somewhat interested. And maybe a woman should do the same thing with a guy if he happens to like football or something. And that's his life. And it's like, yeah, I got to watch my football and everything. Well, if you want to get along with that guy, you damn well better figure out how to help him love his football by interacting in some way. You don't have to like it, but if you hate it and you let him know you hate it, your relationship is not going to last. It's impossible. But as long as you can find 20% or whatever that you do get along with a lot as a friend, and allow the other person their time to do their separate things, you'll get along just fine. In an absolute, perfect, loving relationship that can last forever because there's respect and love. That's what's missing in this world. I don't see very much of that happening nowadays. People have become, you could say, free because women can work, and that's freed them from the cloistered life of growing up and having to do certain things, and they didn't have the money, or which gives you freedom to do the things that you want to do. And nowadays that's not a problem for most. Then they don't need each other. Well, if you don't need each other, if you don't want to have a relationship with the opposite sex or whatever, or a relationship with anyone, then don't. But if you do, quit whining about having a problem getting together with each other. Do something about it. Find another person of the opposite sex or whatever that you enjoy doing things with, and they will enjoy doing things with you. I'm going to quit harping on that, but I want you to know that is a huge issue in this world, or this modern world, in these days. This is just random, but another thought that came to my mind and I wanted to talk about, and I've talked about these things in the past too, is if you have an opportunity and you're searching for things, there's absolutely nothing wrong with joining a different faith. That most faiths on this planet, religions, faiths, or whatever, most have good things to offer. You would be shocked to find out how wonderful it is in a Baptist church, for instance, to go to a Baptist church and see the love, the camaraderie, the singing, the love they have for God, and all of these things. Just don't get involved in the deeper parts of the church, or you're going to find greed, animosity, vying for power and rulership and control. Stay away from that stuff, because the average member is there for love. Love for each other, love for God. The biggest problem from my perspective, where I'm at right now, the biggest problem with that is it's like I've had family members die. My parents are both passed. I loved my mom with all my heart and soul. She was like incredible. And it broke my heart and soul when she died. It is worse when you are a member of a church or an organization and spiritually you are growing and you have to exit that faith. And you find excuses. When I say you find excuses, if you love God and you pray constantly for further light, knowledge, for spiritual enlightenment and all these things, you're going to have to transcend. It's like a stepping stone. It's like going from the first grade, second grade, third grade, fourth grade, on and on and on. And your life is kind of planned out that way if you desire to become one with God. And you're not going to find everything you want in any church. Doesn't matter what faith or religion it is. You're not going to find everything there for you. And so when you leave that organization, it was worse than my mother dying for me to remove myself from the Mormon faith, to leave it because I knew I couldn't go any further. And you don't leave because you know it's out of selfish desire because you want to grow spiritually. It doesn't happen that way. What happens is God kind of, out of the love and everything, puts roadblocks in your way to help you find problems with the faith or with the people, whatever the excuse may be that gets you out of that church. You know you have to leave, and when you leave, it is very difficult to do, extremely difficult to do. And so do I look back at my many decades of devout membership in the Mormon faith as a mistake or bad? No, I look back at it with absolute gratefulness and in my heart and in my soul that I was a member of that organization for those many decades. It helped me to be where I am right now today. And I would have to say the same is probably true with any faith, any religion. You're going to find absolute jewels in those organizations. And if you don't join any of them, that's fine too. But recognize you're missing a whole lot of love and joy that you could have if you were a member. Now, maybe you're on your path right now and you've already been a member in former life experiences before you were born this time, in this incarnation. And so that's fine too. But I just want you to know there's nothing bad about joining a faith or a religion. Maybe it's maybe listening to me right now and joining another faith or religion might be disingenuous, and you're not being, it's almost like you are betraying that particular faith because you might be going there for the, because I'm telling you you're going to get a lot out of it, but you know you're going to leave someday. That might very well not be the smartest thing to do, because in a way you're betraying that faith. So maybe another way to look at it is, from your personal perspective right now, is to, when you see people that are definitely faithful to their religion and their faith and everything, have the deepest, most utter respect for those people, for them honoring their faith in their dedication. Lastly, this, and I've said this before too, but lastly, this is super important for you to understand and know. What is it I'm teaching? I am teaching you the very most difficult, hardest spiritual lesson of your life. The most difficult, hardest, most difficult path that there can be in your existence in this physical incarnation. That is the path I am teaching. And what is it? It's for you to be totally independent. For you to not depend upon me or any teachings or any books or religions or faith. For you to make your golden thread contact to God, that you are the one that receives visions and revelations and answers to your prayers and to your thoughts and to your meditation, and that you know what path to follow. You know where to go because you are in direct contact with God. And when I say direct contact, don't get me wrong. Don't think that you're shaking hands with God every day, that you see God with your eyes, but your senses are so honed in like a radio to the right station that you know exactly that you're on the right path. And it's way more than that, because you can get revelation. And I've told you before, the first several revelations in my life, and honestly, I don't know how many, I didn't know that they were revelations. I thought that it was normal, physical, reading a book, for instance, and studying and putting the book down and go, wow, that was like fantastic information. I really needed that to guide and direct me. And then the next day you take that book and show the person, I underlined it, and then you read it and it doesn't mean anything of what your revelation. I think being funny, but not really, it's like for me personally, God is going, well, this guy is too stupid to understand or believe in visions and revelations and stuff. So he has to have things concrete, because he's too dumb to realize you don't need this kind of stuff to know what the truth is. But I'm speaking as God. But because he loves me so much, I'm going to make him read this in a book. Then he'll believe it, because it's in a book, because he doesn't have enough faith or whatever to believe just a regular vision. And that happened to me, I can't tell you how many times, before I started to realize, oh, wait a second. I don't actually have to read it in a book. I can get it differently. Because it's happened enough times, you know that you can get it differently. But that's the path I'm teaching. I'm teaching a path where if you were to follow me, there is no church. There is no organization. And that we are individuals, loving friends of each other, knowing that in this reality we are like, we know we're separated. We know that we have no organization. We know that it appears chaotic, that we have nothing solid to stand upon. And so we look up to God for guidance and direction. Do you know how difficult that is to start a journey and you say, well, I'm going to go to this particular place. Oh, do you have a map of how to go? No. Do you know what direction to go? No. Do you know what provisions you're going to need? No. Do you have any clue on the planet where this location is that you want to go? No. Do you have shoes? No. Are you going to drive a car? No. Maybe. Do you have any clue at all how to get from where you're at to where you're going? No. No clue. But I am leaving today. What direction are you going to go? I don't know. Are you going to starve to death? Maybe. I don't know. Are you going to walk off a cliff? Possibly. Who knows? Aren't you afraid? No. I'm excited. I'm ecstatic. Because every morning I wake up and I'm in a different location. I'm not dead. I'm closer. I'm seeing the lights of the place I'm going to. It's spectacular. And every step you take on faith. That's what it is like if you're going to follow me. That is what it's like on this particular path. Most people cannot do it yet. Every person that is going to become one with God has to follow that path. That is the path. There is no other way that I'm aware of. God has revealed to me that there is no other way. Is there another way for other individuals? I don't know. I don't think so. I mean, even Jesus hanging on a cross supposedly said, "Why have you forsaken me, God? I'm hanging on an effing cross here with spikes through my arms and legs and I'm dying. This isn't really an enjoyable thing." But he had to walk his path alone, just like you have to. But we can be friends. And that's what helps get you through. In other words, me making Jesus my guru, he doesn't have to be alive. If I importune him and constantly question, how do I do this? You seem to be the most enlightened guru that ever lived. You devoted your life and died on a cross for me. You said it is assumed that you said all these things. Then it makes no difference whether you're alive or dead. You can still communicate with me. I just have to tune into the right station, so to say. And that's how I made Jesus my guru. And it worked. And then Jesus turns that around and tells me, dude, you're going to be on your own. I can't drag your ass to become one with God. I can't do it. This is what Jesus is saying. I can't do that. You're going to have to do this you're going to have to walk this path by yourself. But I will be your friend. And eventually we will be one with each other if you become one with God. Because everyone that is one with God is one with each other that is one with God. And that singularity path where you're seems hopeless is done. It's over. And never having to repeat itself. It's exciting. I want you to know. It is absolutely, stunningly exciting to be on that path after several years of being on the path. At first, it's so damn scary and so damned difficult that I will say most people turn around and go, not going to happen in this life, maybe a future life, but not in this life. And I would suspect that that's why most people, what they do is they're born into this reality, and they seek after wealth and the luxuries of life that money brings and everything else. And it makes you comfortable in this life. And if you're comfortable in this life, you're less likely to walk that path where you give everything up. Now, when I say you give everything up, does that mean I live on the street in a hovel with? No, I live in a beautiful home. I have many, I suppose in many countries I would be considered wealthy. Not in my country. In my country, in my community, I'm middle class at best. So I think that's it for today. Thank you for watching. I love you. I pray for you. I'd like to say every day, but some days, honestly, I get so busy with other things, I forget. But I do try to pray for every one of you every day. I don't care if you never have communicated with me and never intend to communicate with me. I still pray for your guidance, your direction, that God will manifest miracles in your path to help you get through the difficulties that you're enduring and to help you have joy and satisfaction. And when joy and satisfaction happens, relish those times. Because on this particular path that I'm speaking of, it can become extremely difficult. So enjoy the good times, because you have to get through the bad times too. And with that, I am going to close and grab the camera and show you around. Thank you for watching. I love you. Bye. This is my motorcycle that is a BMW. This is what I ride. Not as much as I used to, but it's one hell of a fun thing to consume my time. I'll show you around my shop. This is where everything, like all of my paints and all that kind of stuff, those are machines in the corner. Over here I have, that's a huge bandsaw. Well, let's look at the table saw down there. That keeps me, that's how I make all my cabinets and everything. Over there, what you're looking at is a MIG welder, a TIG welder, a plasma cutter, all the gases, other machines. This might be boring for a lot of people. There you got your saws. That's a full-sized, not small, full-size milling machine. And let's go in the house. So this is where, oh, those are electric bicycles. This is where well, you can see some of the wood that's up there stored. I've got wood all over the place. Anyways, there's another look at the motorcycle. Let's go in the house and I'll kind of show you what my home looks like. Now, mind you, I've remodeled everything. There isn't anything in this home that I didn't do and build. All the cabinets I've built, all the paintings and all that kind of stuff. This is the TV room. Again, everything let's show some of the tables that I've built. So there's a coffee table that I've built. This here is a end table that I built. And there's the other end table. And those handles in front, I actually welded those up out of regular brass pipes. So that's a crazy table. I'm going to rebuild it because my wife doesn't like the shape of it, so I'm going to change the shape and rebuild it. This is my art studio, and I built all that cabinet structure. That sticks out actually of the house by a couple foot. And that table there is what I use for stained glass. Those steel rails on the side glide the steel. Oh, I'll show you some artwork. That's what my nephew does. It's crazy artwork. It's actually on leather. Oh, there's a clock. Look at that crazy clock. I built that too, of course. It's got jewels all over it. When I say jewels, they're not real jewels, but anyways, that's some of the fun I do. Your floors down there, I did all the floors myself. It's all marble and granite around the edges. Oh, here's my is what I always say. I'm sorry for being so. Anyways, there's the easy chair, and I do lots of studying. These are just some of my spiritual books and stuff that I've used over the years for resources. And there's some more art that my nephew has made. See that sewing right up there? That's what my wife did. She was just playing around, experimenting. That's a built-in cabinet with music and everything in it. The stereo system is for spoiled brats that have more money than they have sense. That would be me. Amplifiers, dying audio, speakers, massive. See all the stained glass windows? Obviously, I built those too, installed them. But this is what I've been working on for the past month. See that floor? It used to be carpeted. And so, oh, by the way, you can't hardly tell now, but all of the woodwork that's on the walls, I actually cut the tree down that I made all the woodwork out of, the handrails and all that kind of stuff. But so this is the flooring that we just put down, and you see the trim there. That's lacquer painted. I started with raw wood, and milled it down and made all the baseboard, painted it. This room is a guest room, super messy because, well, I just put I just put everything back in after getting all the floors done. But you see those, well, you can't see them both, but those two doors, they're bypass doors. I built those out of raw wood. And the openings in the top, you see how they're just open? I'm going to put stained glass in them. So this is what I've been working on for the last month or so. All of this woodwork and all of this kind of stuff. That jewelry cabinet there, that's what I built for my wife. All of that intricate stuff is inlaid, basically. And that thing right there, my wife made that. She's kind of like, I'd like to say she's a witch, but she's not a witch like you would think. She's very spiritual in that type of stuff. And that's what I built in. And that's the leather sewing machine that she enjoys doing. And I wanted to show you, this is where my computer, where I make all my videos and everything, most of the time, is right there. And the computer is down below, and printers and all of that kind of stuff. And there's a commercial printer right there for stuff. All these cabinets you see, yeah, I built them all. Everything you see in here. I even did all the texture on the walls and stuff. And built those cabinets. And that's, well, that's me in the picture right there. Let's turn some lights on. That's me holding the camera, as you can tell. And and then the floors, you can see it's all marble. You want to see a crazy shower that this used to be a bathtub, for crying out loud. I tore the bathtub out and put the huge shower in here. It's kind of dark and I can see that, well, luckily the camera compensates for the low light. That's my tile artwork that I built with a monster shower head above and all the shower heads and all that kind of stuff. Anyways, I think that's more than enough to see. But you can see that that's what keeps me busy.